Are you ready? In 3, 2, 1. Apparently, The Lord of the Rings is racist, guys. Apparently, there are some people that want The Lord of the Rings redone for modern audiences. Can you imagine that? Yeah, I love The Lord of the Rings. I think it's fantastic. I've on my second channel, Metatron's Academy, I've actually made a reaction to an audio recording of Tolkien, and we analyzed his speech patterns. It was fascinating. Tolkien had this way of expressing, spoke very fast, but then had these very slow moments. His mind was quick. I think Tolkien was an extremely intelligent man. You can tell by the way he articulates his thoughts. Sometimes it feels like his language abilities in his own language are not fast enough to keep up with his mind. They're just scared of watching all extended editions. You're absolutely right. 8 reasons. It's without an apostrophe. We're not starting well, are we? Tough to watch the Lord of the Rings trilogy today. Let's have a look. Maybe I'm overreacting, guys. Maybe the reasons are legit. Let's see. J.R.R. Tolkien in The Lord of the Rings may have established the benchmark for modern high fantasy. Yeah, you can remove may. But it was Peter Jackson's movie trilogy that elevated the story to global level of popularity. The films won a combined total of 17 Oscars in addition to making billions of box office dollars. Yeah, I would say deserved. The Lord of the Rings soon evolved into a franchise, now comprising multiple spin-off movies, as well as Amazon's surprisingly well-made Rings of Power series. Of course, they're gonna praise. Man, these people are so predictable, it's so annoying. If they have our own messages in it, then we praise it. If it doesn't, then we say it's bad. No critical thinking, no journalism, no review integrity, nothing. That being said, the original film trilogy was created in the early 2000s. Oh, the Dark Ages, pre-Paleolithic period, Pleistocene. Is that how you pronounce it? Pleistocene, Mesolithic. What were they doing? And has aged somewhat in comparison to the visual scope available to current cinema. Has it? Because I remember the elves looking awesome in the battles. And all the armor and the fights. I mean, I don't know. Maybe. I'll give him this. I'll give him that one. Although The Lord of the Rings remains one of the most popular fantasy movie franchises of all time, franchises of all time, there are a few notable issues with the trilogy. All right, let's go. What are these issues? Let's see what's annoying. That 100% they're gonna make it racial. 100% they're gonna make it racial. They're gonna make it about women. So there isn't an empowered black woman. There are too many white people. It's gonna be like this. You know it's gonna be like this, right? I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, maybe not enough gay, that's what it's gonna be, there's no transgender, 100% that's what it's gonna be. That's not to say that the series isn't worth watching, on the contrary, it's more about highlighting some of the biggest reasons that make The Lord of the Rings a tougher watch than it was 2 decades ago. Okay. Problem number 1, The Lord of the Rings movies excluded many important story elements. Well, maybe this one. The Lord of the Rings was supposed to whittle 1,000 densely written pages down to 3 movies, a Herculean undertaking that became a monumental achievement. In this regard, Peter Jackson did a spectacular job of condensing the story without straying too far from the main plotline. Agreed. On the other hand, many fans were frustrated by the excisions of far too many book sequences. Information about family trees and cultural traditions is as unnecessary as the characters themselves. Okay, so how is this a problem? I mean, they had to reduce. It's not like it's already like a monumental marathon. What were they supposed to do? Let's see. Saruman's death was changed to reflect his life, murdered atop the tower of Orthanc by his pathetic servant Wormtongue. The novels dedicated an entire chapter to this scouring of the Shire, and the absence of that scene was felt in The Return of the King. Well, this is then I'll get this. That's fine. It's a decent critique. I have nothing against this. Moreover, it wasn't necessary to remove Tom Bombadil, as his character represented a higher power that already held sway in Tolkien's world. Now that the Rings of Power has been filling in the blanks left by the Lord of the Rings, the gaps feel even more absolute. Okay, well, first point, I'll give it to them. It's logical. CGI was increasingly overused in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Was it? You guys think it was? And what were they going to use for the What are they called? The Olifants. What were they gonna use? Puppets? The Lord of the Rings earned unprecedented acclaim for its visual standards, a blend of practical effects, miniatures, and pioneering CGI. The Fellowship of the Ring took the Spartan approach, using CGI sparingly when necessary. Meanwhile, the Two Towers elevated its visuals to a whole new level of impressive with the Battle of Helm's Deep. Yeah, and Gollum's motion capture. Oh yeah, Gollum's was awesome. It's always awesome. Though the latter's brilliance is thanks mostly to Andy Serkis. Okay, so what is the line of... The Return of the King relied heavily on CGI from the Battle of the Pelennor Fields and the Army of the Dead to the gorgeous capital city of Gondor. Contemporary viewers were understandably amazed by these effects. Yeah, we were. I watched it at the cinema, at the theater, at the movies in Sicily. People actually went there all dressed up. I don't know if it was the same in the US or wherever you were from, but back in, I mean, I'm sure it was. If we did it in Sicily, 100% you guys did it everywhere else. But yeah, people went there dressed as orcs, as elves, with mail armor, yeah, everybody did that. It was great. Which now come across as overblown and dated. I don't know, man. I mean, if I'm watching something from 20 years ago, it's not like I'm expecting them to use the same level of tech as we do today. I mean, we understand that, but I don't think it feels that dated, at least to me. I periodically rewatch The Matrix, which is from 1999, and that is 27 years ago. And I think that still is great. All the special effects are great. To me, at least. If you're enjoying this video so far, please take a moment to check out my Patreon page. With as little as a $5 support, you can help us ensure that we can continue to produce high quality and high researched content. And at the same time, you get access to polls, extra videos, unlisted streams, and much more. Thank you so much. Still remains one of my favorite movies ever, The Matrix. The scene with Gollum falling into the pits of Mount Doom while clutching the One Ring looks rather clumsy, effectively taking away from Serkis' Oscar-deserving performance. It just doesn't hold up well in 2020s. And again, this is a personal matter of, I don't know, do you guys agree with this? I'm not saying that this is not something I will point a finger and mock. As a position, if to you it feels dated, the only thing it tells me is that you are probably Gen Alpha writing this. That's the only thing. But personally, it doesn't bother me. To each his own. Next, Middle-earth's female characters have little agency and less screen time. Can you imagine being this? I don't even want to use the word pedantic because that's my middle name. But I'm like, did you literally sit down and calculate in minutes with a stopwatch how much screen time females had, as opposed to men, and use it as a way to determine quality of writing and storytelling? Everyone remembers her. She's one of the most beloved female characters in the history of human culture. She really is. She's a phenomenal character. At this point, what are we doing? Are you really doing the number of minutes on screen? How about the quality and the depth of those moments? Because if you have a very emotionally deep scene where you're like glued to the screen, and that scene is 3 minutes, and it involves her, which we all know, and then but the scene with the guy afterwards was 6 minutes. Yeah, but maybe it didn't matter as much. Like, this is stupid. Who says that men and women need to have the exact number of minutes of screen time? Based on what? Why does that matter? It doesn't matter. It's the author's freedom. And by the way, he's a great storyteller, Tolkien, so I say that whatever he did it right. J.R.R. Tolkien filled his work with both male and female characters, but that's not enough. That's not enough. That's the thing with people like this. It's never enough. So even if, that's why, on a lot of things, I've abandoned moderate and centrist positions. Because there is no point. I've seen this happen a lot, and today we might talk about him at one point, but I've seen this happen a lot with the likes of Piers Morgan. When you watch those interviews, and then you see that he's trying to be moderate, he's trying to be centrist, he's trying to be fair, and the radicals hate him anyways. They call him all of the different things. Like, I remember this interview where he was like saying all of these things, where he's like, no, of course, I think transgender people, if you're an adult, you can do whatever you want, it's your choice, and that's your life, and I would respect that. And then he put a but, which was about the situation with sports, which is absolutely, yeah, of course. But he did this enormous preamble where he agreed with so many things. And this transgender activist was like, well, that's transphobic. You're clearly transphobic. And he's like, how am I transphobic? I just spent the last 5 minutes agreeing with you. It doesn't matter, because to the cultist mentality, it's all or nothing. So at this point, ditch it. He filled with both male and female characters, although men were often given the lion's share of the spotlight. One, not true. Second, even if, because I would argue she is one of the most important characters. Of course, Aragorn is the protagonist. Is that a cardinal sin, though? They hate the damsel in distress. They hate the classical storytelling. And that's why I am so happy that A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, which brought back this eternal perspective, storytelling device, damsel in distress, honorable man, knight of value, defends the woman. They hate it. And I love that went so well. This shouldn't have stopped him from granting his female characters more agency. You see, that's what they do. They want to control everything you do. They've been doing it in the gaming. The activist will literally come to your game and tell you, yes, but are you putting one person of every race? And are you making sure that they're all equally represented? Are you making sure that women need no man? Are you making sure that there is LGBT representation and there are at least one or two characters who are transgender, and then we need non-binary, and then we need... Are you doing all that? They want to control everything you do. And the freedom of the artist to tell a story however they have envisioned it is going to become secondary in these people's minds to, yes, but the message. Instead of defying them like Galadriel, Luthien, and Arwen. And Jackson's adaptations didn't improve upon that problem as much as it should have. Look, I promise, I swear to you, I didn't read this before, but I am prophesizing everything. I'm right about it. He did it. He put everything. He put the black elf. He put the white elf, but you got to have the black elf. Then you have the black strong dwarf and empowered woman dwarf with a beard. Like, he did literally everything they wanted. Arwen, come on, Arwen had a slightly bigger role, slightly, as Frodo's savior, but the rest of her act teemed with romantic undertones. Oh no! Are you talking about heterosexual breeders? How could they? Galadriel is a symbol of noble femininity and a necessary pedestal for women who have shaped the world with their ferocious natures. Given, I do believe that to grant her something, whoever is writing this, ferocious is indeed the adjective I will use to describe a lot of these liberal feminists. They're always angered and hate men. Yes, so ferocious is correct. Women who have shaped the world. What world are we talking about? Because if you're talking about the world of Middle-earth, you don't know that. The author does, because he made it. And if you're talking about our world, then I'm going to say your vision of our history is more fantasy than The Lord of the Rings. What a condescending statement to make. Oh, the ferocious nature of women. Strong, independent. Eowyn's victory over the Witch King of Angmar is directly connected to her gender, is it? Implying that any woman could have killed the overpowered villain. The women in The Lord of the Rings have been relegated to secondary roles as supporters, wives, and lovers. Yeah, and the queen, and the freaking queen. How is that a secondary role? The freaking queen. Even Eowyn falls into this trap with the unrequited love subplot. Yeah, how dare you? When a woman says you gotta love her. Anyways, let's go. Monocultural. Oh, it's gonna get worse, guys. Monoculturalism and racial stereotypes weren't handled well. Well, I do suppose that orcs shouldn't have been allowed in the Shires is indeed a position that, but yeah. Racial stereotypes. I'm sorry, but what races are we talking about? Because as far as I know, elves don't exist, and neither do dwarves in the fantasy sense. Saying that Tolkien belonged to a different era is a blame-deflecting argument used in defense of the author's borderline colonial gaze. While all the elves are compassionate at heart, how dares he to create a beautiful fantasy race? How dare you? While all the elves are compassionate at heart, they clearly represent white characters. Okay, so who do the orcs represent? I gotta ask at this point. These are the people that say these things, by the way. Because in my entire life, I swear, this is the reason why I'm asking this. It's because there is this, I gotta go full screen for this. There is this D&D article that I read not so long ago that was saying that the original D&D creators were racist. And it was saying that, like, for instance, having a half-elf, so having halves, is racist, which I thought, that's weird, because I would have expected the most purist white supremacists at this point to think that way, but somehow they figured out a way to come to the conclusion that, oh, if you're half elf, then you get some traits from the elves and some traits from the human. That's racist, because you're trying to say that one race is better at doing something than another race, and that's not real equity and equality. I'm not joking. So they literally ended up pushing the exact same stuff as someone who is for, like, genetic purity would have said. So anyways, half-elves are allegedly racist. And then I remember that I was reading this stuff, and they were saying, plus it's obviously clear that white supremacists and racists identify orcs as sub-Saharan Africans. And I was like, who? You're sick in the head. One, I've never seen a sub-Saharan African with green skin. If you can point one to me, I would love it, because I'm doing a photo shoot tomorrow. That would be amazing. I know, I have never in my entire life, and I played D&D for decades when it was cool, not with all of this nonsense now where, like, I can't even pronounce half the races. What the heck is becoming now? I'm talking the real stuff. I'm talking like the red manual, then it went into the blue manual, which was expert, and then it went advanced D&D, and then it went to the green manual, companion, teal, more than green in fact. I'm talking the original stuff, not the 70s, but the 80s version. No one ever did like, oh, orcs would be from Congo, right? No, who the heck thinks that way? Elves represent white people, right? The Rings of Power tried to subvert this with Arondir, is it a black elf? A tactic that failed because it came far too late in the franchise. In fact, even the dwarves, hobbits, and men are entirely white in The Lord of the Rings. There is no single POC actor among the heroes. Now, I think it's obvious that this novel was written a while ago, and they say, don't just blame the argument, but it is an argument. I mean, of course, every person is the child of their own century. That's normal. With that being said, it is also clear that what Tolkien did is take inspiration from Nordic, Germanic, and Celtic mythology. Generally speaking, The Lord of the Rings is obviously inspired by, like, English, Irish, Celtic, Nordic mythology. The Shires are freaking Ireland with the hobbits, drinking the way they drink and the fortune and the stuff. Would they complain if an author from Uganda, an author from Nigeria, decided to take inspiration from their own mythology, and by extension, therefore, the races, characters, gods look black? I don't think anyone would complain about that, would they? So it's normal that an Englishman, because he was, basically, it doesn't matter where he was born, he was an Englishman. If the Englishman wanted to represent a fantasy upgraded version of what we could say the British Isles are in a way, I think it's normal that people look the way the populations that are from there look like. It's absolutely normal. There is nothing wrong with that. If I see an Asian author and they want to create a fantasy world and they kind of map it onto the phenotypic traits of that side of the world, who's going to complain about it? No one is going to complain about it. They only complain about it when it's white people. So in reality, I'm going to say, he was a person from this specific period. No, even today, if a white person wants to create a fantasy world that looks based on their culture and the way people look, and they don't want to make it ultra multicultural, so be it. There's nothing wrong with that. And if you think that there is wrong with that, while that may be your personal opinion, then you have to be consistent. So you have to have a problem if a black author does that. So when they made freaking Wakanda, then why is Wakanda doesn't have like a section that is only white people? Why doesn't Wakanda have a section with people that look Middle Eastern? Why doesn't Wakanda have like a secondary underground city where people look Asian? It would be the same thing. Nobody cares. So if you do that, but you don't consistently apply this metric, then I will not respect you nor your ideas. As long as you apply it evenly and like, no, I like, and besides, then you write it. For comparison, Tolkien painted the Haradrim and the Easterlings, two races of men who lent their support to Sauron, as incompetent villains. Both these people were of darker skin and hair, and Tolkien juxtaposed these supposedly tainted Eastern and Southern characteristics against the purity of the West. Maybe, but it's also possible that you are seeing a lot more into this. Let's continue. The extended cut isn't as accessible as the theatrical version. As mentioned earlier, Peter Jackson streamlined his trilogy for cinema, removing any scene he believed was inconsequential to the overarching storyline. However, the director included many of these scenes in the extended editions, which run for a combined 2 hours longer than the theatrical cuts. Yeah, I mean, one would assume that the availability of streaming platforms would bring the extended cuts to the populace. Though that isn't always the case. Okay. While there have been platforms highlighting the director's cut, the theatrical version has always been the most common on streaming, more annoyingly to you, perhaps, but you seem to be annoyed by everything at this point. Are you annoyed by his beard? Is that too masculine? It's impossible to predict when a service will have the extended edition available. Can you not buy it? Can you not buy, like, the little DVD box? Fans can obtain them in Ultra HD Blu-ray, there you go. But that's an extra expense that doesn't seem worth it. If it's not worth it, then why are you complaining about the lacks of it? Viewers need. So this person decides what you need to engage with, the trilogy in the most complete form, and there shouldn't be so many hurdles in a process that otherwise sleek and efficient. Nonsense. Next, years of cultural saturation have left fans numb. The Lord of the Rings has faced one of the most common problems known to global franchises, oversaturation. The movie trilogy earned billions from ticket sales and home video purchases and still continues to be a frequent talking point. The releases of spin-offs such as War of the Rohirrim and the upcoming Hunt for Gollum consistently keep the franchise in the public eye. That said, the Rings of Power is probably the biggest contributor to oversaturation, but I thought that you praised Rings of Power. So I'm a little confused now. In addition, Jackson Trilogy has been endlessly satirized, referenced and dissected, for instance by you, dissected by the media and the fandom. People who haven't watched a single second of the films probably know the whole story from the array of memes and references that abound on the internet. This person is a crybaby. There are no more plot twists capable of genuine surprise, M-Dash. Gandalf's resurrection, Boromir betrayal, Frodo's first claim on the One Ring have been an inexorable part of pop culture for decades. Okay. Today's fantasy is a lot more subversive than Lord of the Rings. Yeah, and that's a problem. I'm just gonna say it, guys. Although rewatching The Lord of the Rings in 2025 might feel as exciting as ever, new viewers are faced, meaning the modern audiences, are faced with a unique problem. Fantasy has evolved significantly, see Peter Jackson. I would argue it has devolved. I would say did not evolve at all. Let me show you fantasy has evolved. Evolution of fantasy, let's go. So what do we have in this picture? Let's examine it very quickly. So we have clearly a beholder with a heart eye, as he is clearly staring at two gay dudes, while there is a lesbian liberal singing with pink hair. Of course, there is a black elf, which, by the way, talking about black elves, I mean, dark elves exist. And while in the, for instance, Warhammer world, they're in fact as white as it gets. Some have more purple skin. I think it has to do with the worship that they choose. But in D&D, I mean, Drizzt is described as having a skin of bronze. So they are, at least dark elves generally speaking. Sometimes they are represented with a purplish hue as well. I guess even then it depends. But in general, I do imagine dark elves whenever we play D&D with having either a bronze-like skin or sometimes even a black, actual ebony black skin. Now, given some people can say, yeah, but why is the evil race of elves the one with the dark skin? And I'm okay considering that as an argument of discussion, as long as you're not one of these insane activists. If you're a genuine person who is wanting to discuss that, that would be a topic that we could address. Almost immediately by depicting a complex world with a diverse range of... But you see, they judge the quality of fantasy by whether or not it has diversity. And a diverse values of morality, what does that even mean? Because if there is one thing that kind of is common with a lot of fantasy systems, is absolute good and absolute evil. They're absolute. They exist in the same way as they do in religion. Because from a non-religious perspective, absolute evil and absolute good do not exist. They are dependent on our species and the way we perceive what's right and what's wrong, which I suppose would be ingrained into what works for us. But at the end of the day, from the perspective of a plant, or from the perspective of, imagine, animals, oftentimes what's good for us is not good for them, so there cannot be absolute unless there is a religious component to it. But in fantasy, absolute good and absolute evil do exist. And so when you have those values, then you can kind of build around them. You can have the gods of good, the gods of evil, the concept of neutrality, which is also interesting if you think about it, because while D&D has the good, neutral, and evil subset, chaotic, lawful, and whatnot, really, if you think about it, a neutral good, I can see it, but a pure neutral, I would still consider them evil, because it would be some of the most selfish people on the planet, like almost sociopath level. A true pure neutral, you can disagree with me if you want, if you're into D&D, if you're a DM, but to me, if you think of what a pure neutral is, they don't care. They will side with evil if evil benefits them, and they will side with good if good benefits them, but it's all about them. I personally would put that with evil as well. Anyways, House of the Dragon followed the same trend, effectively reflecting the real world through fantasy narratives. Yeah, and that's again a thing. The real world. We want to get out of the real world. You can have some references, but generally speaking, you don't have to connect your fantasy world necessarily to reproduce the problems and situations that occur. You can, and it could be an effective way to address it, but it's not. You can also use it as an escape feature. Meanwhile, there is much moral clarity, too far much moral clarity in the Lord of the Rings for the story to feel authentic and relatable. To me, it felt authentic and relatable, all right? I don't know about you. Fears of a remake have put pressure on the nostalgia. Yeah, please don't. They are gonna fail. Gandalf is gonna become a black woman, guaranteed. And Aragorn is gonna be in a gay relationship. Guaranteed, guys. Arguably one of the most vexing issues in current media is woke. Remakes have taken the world by storm. Many studios would rather bank on previously successful projects to fund... Well, this is true, though. I think this person is an absolute idiot, but I'll agree with this statement. Studios would rather bank on previously successful projects than fund something completely new, leading to a spate of unwanted reboots. I agree. Harry Potter is getting a TV show. Ooh, don't even get me started. Maybe I should talk about it, perhaps next time. That will follow the exact same story as the movies, though it promises to be a more faithful adaptation. Isn't it the one with the Professor's Snape being changed already, swapped? So how is it faithful adaptation? It can't be a faithful adaptation, because to be a faithful adaptation, they need to involve, what's her name, the writer, and they freaking hate her. So that's not going to happen. And then there is the endless spate of Disney. Yeah, no thank you, Disney. Yeah, so as usual, it's not okay for the modern audiences, which are some of the most judgmental, judgy, annoying, condescending, and virtue signaling people that infest our online space. But here we are.